No worries. So to kick things off, I do start with the same boring ass question every time. Simple introduction, man. Who are you? Little background on yourself, and we won't tell them how we're having this conversation, but what made you want to have this conversation today?
Yeah, so my name's Rhys. The singer from Aussie pop punk band SoSo. Uh, yeah, so I mean, what was the other thing you asked me? Just quickly,
the just
was a little bit
a quick
backstory about the
background,
band.
yeah, little background on
Yeah,
yourself.
okay. So we kicked off the band probably about 3 years ago. So we kicked it off literally straight into the pandemic. So we have like a bit of a running joke that every time we try to do something big, the whole world just like stops. Not
Right.
not in a good way though. Not in a good way,
Yeah.
obviously. So yeah, we ruin everything. So
Traditional
we're
pop punk, right? That's it.
exactly exactly. I won't make any other jokes there with that one. But yeah, we've been in a band. A couple of the guys that we're with, we've been in previous bands and everything. And man, we just started writing pop punk, and it was like, I think we need to do this. So um, whole new band, whole new thing, and kicked it off, and it's been going for the last 3 years, and I guess finally starting to get some steam behind it, which is good to see. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And pulling back the curtain a little bit, basically, you and I've connected on Instagram a few times around a couple different things, interacting on each other's posts, things like that. And I think the cool thing is, you know, I've got a couple buddies that would absolutely say this characterizes me to a T. The Australian music scene is so much better and so fucking underrated. Like, the world does not understand the amount of talent that's down there. Um, and so, like, for me, looking through when I talk to you about doing this interview, I start looking through your Spotify and, the band bio and all that. And, like, you've worked with or shared stages with, I should say, bands like yours truly, Red Hook, Banks Arcade, like all these artists that I've talked to as well. And I'm like, it's insane because I think you all have very similar stories that in Australia, the music scene is a little bit hard of an egg to crack, right? Initially. But
Yeah.
then it seems like once you break through a little bit, the floodgates open and it's like, oh shit, like we're ready to go.
Yeah, I think so. And like all those bands that we've played with as well, like Red Hook is sick. They've thrown us, like they've helped us out heaps in the past. Yours truly chucked us on a show as well. And that's how we played alongside Banks Arcade. And they were all really nice guys as well. So
Yeah.
like everyone is trying to help each other out. And I think like I've had a couple of other interviews. There are less opportunities here. So we're like mates with a couple of US bands, and it's like every 5 seconds they're touring. And I'm like, we're lucky if we get, like, as a smaller band, a good run of shows lined up for, maybe twice a year. You might get like, two or twice, and it's the
Right.
East Coast cities. Um, but yeah, I think once you kind of win over enough people here, you do start to get more of those opportunities. But it's just tough. Maybe that's what makes us have to work so hard to make the music good, because otherwise we just don't get eyeballs on us. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, I think you're right though. And on the US side, not to cut you off there, but on the US side, I think it's because obviously we're bigger, country wise and
just a
whatever.
little bit, just a little
Uh,
bit.
but but I think there's just so much saturation over here as well. And I know you guys are drowning in saturation as well, but like the way that in the US that you break out of that saturation is you start doing those small regional runs, and that's not as much of an option in the Australian market.
Yeah, look, a lot of bands are getting out there now and doing a little bit more of the regional stuff, but you're right. Look, if you look at bands like Parkway Drive, who, obviously not in our genre, but a band that was like known for just like touring their heads off to get where they are. Even North Lane, like I
Yeah.
don't know if yeah. So back in the day, man, they were going out and playing to like the most obscure, regional pubs to 15 kids, which is awesome. Like if you can do that and pull that off. Um, but yeah, it's just part and parcel of, I guess, what you've got to do here. And like to your point as well, I think I'd be wrong not to mention Stevie Knight, who we work with as a producer. And like we've been really fortunate to work with Stevie way back when we first started our old bands. And funnily enough, to get into the studio with Stevie, we actually beat a bunch of kids to win studio time so there was like competition, and you entered as bands, and we must have made just the top of the age limit, and we got there, and it's like 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds in bands, and I'm just like, if we don't win this, it's kind of going to be embarrassing. So, but that's how we ended up like getting in with Stevie and learning from him. And like, dude's a mastermind. He's always pushing the envelope as far as he can, like with music. And I think it shows. Like, he works with a lot of the bands here, and he just knows how to get the best out of us all.
Yeah, and I think that is a key point, is that for people that aren't familiar with him, I mean, he's worked on virtually anything that's come out of Australia and like blown up. He's had some sort of finger in that area. He's worked with Between You and Me, Stand Atlantic, just for some bands that have been recent. I just recently had Red Hook. I had Emmy on our mental health podcast, and Stevie's one of those guys that it's so fucking weird to me, because I feel like he flies under the radar. Like, a lot of people don't realize who he is. But if we were to actually read off his discography, which we won't because it's massive, people are going to be like, oh shit, yeah, I've heard 60, 70, 80% of those songs.
Exactly. And that's just him as well. Like, he's probably one of the nicest guys. Like, he just wants everyone to succeed, which is like, there's not many people that you come across in the music industry that are very just like kind-hearted like that. And he just loves it. Like, he loves it. He loves trying new stuff. And we've got this thing going where we try to like preempt what we think Stevie might be looking to do with songs this time around. So we're just like pushing it. So we took him for one of the songs we just recorded. We took in a guitar solo. We're like, no way, he's not going to do this. He's not going to let us do a guitar solo. Like, and he was like, no, you should actually, this is sick. He's like, you should just play the tapping part at like double the pace. We're just like, as if you're going to let us do this. But it was like, so it's cool. And having someone that you can kind of trust as well to go, this is the best we could do with the song. Here's the demo. Like, what are we missing? And he's able to push it in the right direction. And you can just trust it. He's like, trust me, this is going to work. All right, sweet. So, we're very fortunate to work with him. And I think it just makes us push to write better music and come in with better demos. So,
yeah. And I think, the nice thing with Stevie as well, we won't make the whole podcast about him, but with him and the strength of his discography, though, like, he's had his finger in so many different genres as well. So he can take what you guys are doing and go, hey, it'd be really cool if you just, slightly twist this thing or do this inflection on the vocals instead. Like, your delivery or your timing's off. The dude has such an ear for everything, and
crazy.
Can just like on a dime change your sound. Boom,
yeah.
You're in a whole new direction. So shout out Stevie if you hear this somehow. So
I'm always singing his praises, because I still don't think he gets enough praise. But yeah, anyway, we should probably not make it the Stevie Knight podcast. So.
No, it's totally fine. So let's talk about some of your discography. Obviously, you guys just dropped a new single, but before we get into that, let's kind of walk through some of the old stuff. I say old stuff, 3-year-old band, ish. So old is a relative term. But the part that I definitely wanted to touch on was the EP that you dropped in 2021. I wouldn't call this success, but it's close. First off, love the name for it, because it's such a like pop punk thing, right? Like, we're gonna make this song title a story. But I think it also, correct me if I'm wrong, my perception of it was it's kind of a validation point for you. Like, okay, we finally have this EP that we've put together and are getting to put out. Like, it's not what people would consider success necessarily, but it's close. It's a step in that direction.
Yeah, I think you've like captured it pretty well. it's just tongue in cheek as well for us. Like, I mean, when we started the band, it's SoSo. Like, so it's kind of
Right.
like that, hey, we're SoSo. Like, it's like we're average, it's why we've got like the tagline being offensively average. So yeah, with the name of it, like I wouldn't call this success, but it's close enough. So you missed the enough at the end.
Oh,
But
yeah, sorry.
but yeah, it's a bit of a validation point, but I guess it's just like we obviously want to write the best songs that we can, but we're also like we're idiots. Like I don't know if you've seen, we're literally trying to make more time to make dumb TikToks, not because it's like, oh, we need to go viral. It's like we actually enjoy it. It's fun,
Yeah.
Um, so it's a bit of that, a bit of slapstick on it to say like, hey, like we're kind of proud of these songs and yeah, but don't take us too seriously because we don't take ourselves too seriously, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way. And if you've seen the artwork, my mate passed out like when we're at a party and he's just like sitting there with a beer. And it's just like, we took this Polaroid of him and I said to him, like, are you cool if we use that as like the front cover? And he's like, yeah, whatever. So if you just look at his face and he's like, and just think to yourself, I wouldn't call this success, but it's close enough. Like him just passed out with a beer. I think that encapsulates it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So for me, listening through again the discography as I was studying up for you and this podcast, there's a thing that I think you do that's really kind of maybe it's intentional. So we'll find out, I guess. There's a nostalgic factor to this sound that you've got, especially on this EP, but not so much in a vein where it's like, oh, they're just copying somebody. Like it's a little bit of a nod to traditional and classic pop punk, but it's also got this new age spin on it. I'm sure Stevie's help on that to some extent as well. But what was it like, formulating that and then deciding that, okay, we've developed this sound, like you mentioned earlier, kind of realizing that pop punk's the direction that we're going to go in?
Yeah. I don't think it was the nostalgia vibe wasn't really it's not on purpose, I'll tell you that much. But I think that when we were talking about this the other day with the drummer, and I was saying that a really good song, you listen to it and you kind of swear you've heard it before. Like there's just some element that grabs you. And it's like, I was explaining to him, it's like, technically that shouldn't happen, right? Because like you're starting to associate life memories with it on first listen that you haven't experienced with it. And I've had that with songs before. Like, and I remember hearing a song and that's what captured me. And I thought, man, that's one way to know a song's good, is if you're straight away just going, wow, I feel like I've kind of heard this. I feel like it's putting me like in like some sort of life memory from like when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I think that yeah, with the nostalgia vibe to it, it just kind of came out naturally, I guess. Some of the songs on there are demos that our drummer has written. Like the guy's got like 100 or so songs demoed out, that he's written over time. And the Henry Lawson Jive's a good example. Is we weren't even going to take that one into the studio, but he sent it across. He goes, oh, what do you reckon of this? And I remember listening to it the first time. I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Like because we kind of do a bit of we get an idea together, and then we're actually strange in that we all sit in the room and we actually work through it, have the computer up and start like putting it into the Reaper or whatever, and adding to it part by part, section by section. Well, what's it got to do now, kind of thing. And when we like got that sorted, when we worked through that song, it's like, it's actually a really good song, man. Like we've actually done something cool here. And you know what it reminds me of? Boys of Summer by the Ataris.
Yeah.
Something about it, just that lead line. Real simple. And I like it as well. It's one of the few times that we've done the vocally kind of chill out chorus. It's like mostly you usually jump up, you get a bit like, that's where the whole song lifts. But that was the one time, I think it might be the only time that we've done something that's like a pegged back chorus. Look, we did write one song that's not on the EP that was just the three of us. So myself, H and Christian, when we were living together, and we wrote just like this. It was like, we thought it was cool, but it was the one song that Stevie listened to when we took it in. He's like, nah, that sucks. We need to write another song. And it was just massive Aussie accent, had like a day to remember breakdown, and we're just like, this is just fun. Like we want to do something that we enjoy. We've all been into pop punk growing up. So, and that's probably where we get the nostalgia from. We're probably just subconsciously channeling like our teenage selves.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. And you know, something I've literally just put together as we're talking here, because I'm scrolling through the Spotify as well. The thing that's interesting, you know, we talk about how small the Australian scene is, or the, you know, the limited kind of listenership that's down there. And it's interesting because your current numbers are 39,000, almost 30 or almost 40,000 monthly listeners, which some people would be like, oh, that, you know, that's not much. But then when you actually look at like how many streams songs have had, like people are obviously streaming the hell out of you. It's just not a huge reach of unique people necessarily, like across all these different areas, but they're playing the hell out of your songs. Like the festival song is at 576,000 streams.
that's crazy to us. Like that one, like there was a period where it was getting 3,000 streams a day, because like we've just come off releasing a song, so that those monthly listeners are dropped, as they do, you know, like you release a song, they go up. But yeah, there's something about the festival song that just seems to have grabbed a lot of people, which is just wild to us.
Yeah. But and I think, you know, looking through the discography, it's kind of a trending thing though. Like that EP, if you add up all the streams together, you're right at about 1 million streams off that EP as well. And it's, again, just to, I guess I say all that to say, like, when a listener is, you know, looking for new bands, or, you know, trying to tell if a band's popular, like you can't strictly go off these numbers because, you know, they've only got 40,000 monthly listeners, they must not be very good. Well, let's dive into the fucking songs, because they're getting the shit played out of them by those 40,000 people.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think that again, I don't know how different it is, but you know, in Australia with the kind of, I don't know, I feel like the streaming isn't as massive. Like obviously you've got massive bands in Australia that are just like absolutely unleashing now. But again, back to what we said at the start of the podcast, it's like once it starts to crack on for you, it seems like everyone jumps on board. So I mean, we're just growing. Like, so we're probably up. I think at the end of last year, we're probably sitting around the 15,000 mark. So now we sit around, as you said, the 40,000 monthly listener mark. And yeah, at the end of the day, we just want the songs out there. So it's good when you're seeing the algorithm pick it up, not because it's like, oh, hey, streams. Like we all know we get paid like nothing for them, right? But the fact that more and more people come across the songs, that's the key thing. That's all we're about. So
yeah, and that's, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast before, the whole streaming payouts and whatnot. And it's like, don't get me wrong, it can be decent money, right? Like obviously every little bit helps, it goes back into the band, things like that. But the most important thing you can do to show your support to a band nowadays is buying the merch and going to a show, hands down.
Yeah, definitely. Which is getting a bit harder over here. I think, you know, the pandemic kind of threw everyone, and people are starting to get back into it. So, it's good. We're starting to see like sales for tickets and stuff pick back up, but yeah, merch is pretty much it. And I guess doesn't matter. Like I know back in the 80s and 90s, you could sell CDs and make all your money off CDs, and people like to think of it as like, oh, the glory days and stuff, like, you know, where you can make so much money off it. It's just a different, you know, for want of a better term, like, you know, business structure now. You've got to push merch. You've got to push your live shows, which is, which is kind of good in itself as well, I guess. I guess you're going to get better, better merch designs and stuff, a bit
Right.
more attention paid. So, yeah, look, we're trying to build all that as well. So it's just an ongoing process for us, like, up and coming band, I guess you'd call us. Yeah, just trying to hustle our asses off.
Yeah. And I think, the big thing is like, you guys, obviously, if a label came by and was like, hey, we're going to give you millions of dollars, sure, we'll fucking talk, because we all need money. But at the same time, like, you're not necessarily driving just to get signed to a label or anything. This is still very much a passion project. And, the amount of success that has come down, especially from Australia, but kind of since the pandemic and maybe a little bit before that anyway, like, the amount of indie bands and DIY bands that are absolutely killing versus the people that are on a label. And Between You and Me is a great example of that. They were with Hopeless and they did pretty well, for themselves, but they've been independent and their last couple songs have been massively better than what they've previously done.
Yeah, and honestly, massive shout out to them for doing that, because we obviously don't have a label, so we do everything in house, right?
Right.
And the fact that they had to, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that I think, and let's not. If you talk about it too much, it makes the band seem more lame, because it's nice to think of it as like this really cool, interesting thing on from the outside, but there's a lot of day-to-day, mundane, boring stuff that those guys had to just pick up, bang, on the fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything from, like just sorting out their mailing list, and mailing out to say, hey, buy our merch and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? The fact that they were able to pick it up and run with it and successfully release, the last song to such a massive, response, man, kudos to them. And the fact they're still out there touring, it's like they haven't missed a beat. They've just gone, that's hard to do. I think that could be harder than doing what we're doing. You know what I mean? Because that's like the whole ground kind of shifts. And now it's like, can we do this? Yeah. So good on them. That's just rough. So, and they're killing it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely killing it.
Yeah. And, again, another Australian band, obviously. So, it would be funny if I went back through and looked at, because I've had, again, like Wind Waker and The Gloom in the Corner, like the amount of Australian artists I've had on for being an American podcast is insane. Yeah. But American based, I should say. But no, I think it is a big testament to you guys as well, because there is, again, like you said, it makes it sound lame because people start thinking about it like a business, but there is so much stuff that goes on day to day. And as a DIY band, whether that's sending out press feelers, it's booking shows, it's, all of this stuff that a label typically will assign a team member to you and say, hey, this is your contact for X, Y, and Z. But to be able to kind of juggle that on your own, and like, especially you and I connecting and you acting kind of as your own PR person to interact with me to figure out this, like, that says a lot about, again, the passion for the project and the desire to make it work, rather than, oh, we're just cool getting by if that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we had a conversation when we kicked off SoSo, and it was like, well, what do we want to do with this? Because obviously we've all got day jobs, and we all need to be on board with what we want to do with it, because you don't want to get to a point and go, I didn't sign up to,
right, be
a full-time band, let's say, right? But we all want to do this full time. Like, I think what hurts us the most, is that we feel like if we had more time to do it, we could pump out these songs more consistently. Like, it sucks for us to be sitting on, we just released Pushing Up Daisies. We had that song like recorded, mixed and mastered by the end of 2020. So we're sitting on that for like ages. I'm sure it's 2020. It might have been 2021. I lie. It might have been 2021. But either way, it's like, if we had more time, we just pump stuff out. So that's why I don't know if you've seen, we've started doing the pop pump covers and we're doing like the full versions, right? So, and it's just because we can do those in-house, and it's like the production levels, obviously not as high as going in with Stevie, but it's just something to feed the fans with and go, hey, we're still working on stuff. And it's like, man, all I want to do is sing. All I want to do is write music. So we need an outlet, you know?
Right.
Um, but yeah, the goal for us is definitely to do this as a full-time gig. But obviously it just takes time, and it's a big learning curve as well. As you said, there's a lot of moving parts that go on. I don't know, man. I'm sure labels are great, and there's obviously great experiences, but you'd want, and I think this, I don't know too much about it, so I can't talk to it, too much, but like with between you and me, I feel like they weren't getting the push from the label that they thought they deserved, and
that they did deserve, not even that they thought they deserved.
yeah,
Those boys were getting criminally robbed by the spotlight.
yeah. So, and to me, that makes no sense. Like, why would the label do that? And that's again the thing. It's like, man, if you get stuck with a label that doesn't, share like your dream or your projection for the band, it's painful, So, yeah, I guess there's pros and cons to everything, right? Someone comes with couple million bucks, they've got a bit more control over what happens.
Right. And, I talk to all kinds of artists, and, it does seem like what we would have considered indie labels back in the day, that have definitely bumped up to like second tier or whatever. They're not Sony, but they're tied to Sony or Atlantic or whoever. So like your Rude Records, Sharp Tones,
Yep.
Fearless, there, a lot of people say, they preface it with, we got lucky, right? Like, we got lucky that this team sees the vision in us, because there are all the old horror stories of bands being on a label and not getting the push they deserve. I'll call them out. Victory Records, stealing royalties from bands back in the day. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much of that shit you have to worry about too. And so on one hand, you're right. It does, at least being DIY, I'm in control of my own destiny, right?
Yeah.
A label has a checkbook, which is fucking great, but
Yeah.
it's also not free money. So, there is definitely a trade-off. And I think the thing is too, for kind of what you're saying, as far as, needing / wanting more availability to knock these songs out and stuff. Not to harp on you being on the island, but you're on an island, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
hard. If you were in the States, it's like, shit, could I quit my job and do regional runs, or, even country tours or whatever, and like actually make a decent living a little faster? So, I hate to say that it puts you behind the curve a little bit, but location does matter.
It does. And to be honest, that's one thing that me personally, I'm always thinking, should we just pack up and head over to the States? Because like our biggest streaming comes from the States. Like I feel like that's probably where we've got the biggest fan base, funny enough. So we're always getting messages like, come to the States. It's like, I wish, because you hear stories, and I'm pretty sure this is, unless I've like remembered it incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure Asking Alexandria did that, right? They just
Yes.
were like, you know what? Let's go live in car parks. And it's like, to me, it's like, to do something like that and just have that kind of faith that you're going to make it happen. And, say what you want. I know some people don't like the US or whatever it is, but still the land of opportunity, man. It is still the place that you go to, to make it. Like, that's just the truth, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always conflicted. I always feel like, wake up some mornings, I'm like, man, we should just send it. Like, we should just sell everything and move.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe one day.
And unfortunately, America hasn't made it easy for you guys, right? So
Yeah.
Jake and I talked about this when I had him on, Jake from Between You and Me, and Emmy and I talked about it as well, just to get the band over here. So Between You and Me is on a tour, just to get the band over here, not counting any of their travel or that shit, is roughly $10,000 to $12,000 American to get all the visas and all that shit for that. And it's like, that's what people don't realize. It's not like, oh, they just don't want to come over here. It's that it's so fucking expensive to do it that I can't come over there just on a whim and be like, hey, work allowed me a month or two off, so let's go do a 2-month tour. Okay, but it's $10,000 for me to get there. Fuck.
Yeah, it's wild. And like if you stuff up as well, like there was a while back I had a story of one of the guys who makes like Disney mixes of like songs, Pogo, and he worked on the wrong visa and they barred him for like 7 years. It's like, that's it, man. You're not coming back. And it was just like a stuff up on their behalf. So which is crazy, right? Because the way that it's made out is that it's super easy to get into the US, or I don't know, that seems to be the thing that most people think. But yeah, if you want to work over in the States, I think it's very much like a thing of, they've got a lot of loopholes to jump through, like a lot of paperwork to fill out. And I haven't even looked into it yet because when I chatted to Stevie about it, he's like, it'll be like 10 grand. So yeah, well, 10 grand per member. So what's that, 50 grand just to get over there?
Yeah. And that's, I forget the exact dollar amount. Emmy told me, I think it was like 16 grand for them to get the band to the US. And that's why they haven't done it yet.
Far out. Okay. Well, that's what yeah. A couple of grand each member then, right? So 4 grand something.
Yeah.
That's all to take off the top straight away.
Right. So. And then come over and hope that you sell tickets, hope that you sell merch, hope that the van doesn't break down, like that your gear doesn't get stolen. Like there's so much risk in it as well. Obviously, we're not trying to downplay it. Like it's going to happen for you at some point. It has to. So that I can see you guys live anyway. But I joked with Emmy about that too, that honestly, at this point, it's probably easier for me to just renew my passport and fly to Australia or like the UK and see you guys on a tour somewhere else rather than wait for you to get to the States.
Yeah, like it's crazy. I think we just got to move there, to be honest.
Hey, it is, like you said, it's still considered the land of opportunity. And I do think that there is a lot of opportunity. The music industry is such a weird place now, though, that, it's trying to navigate that and figure out, like, does it make sense to move as a musician for the potential opportunity of tours, or, where's the balance, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a bit of safety, obviously, living it, in your home country. You can try to get things up to a certain point before you take the shot. So that's probably where we're at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're doing well. You mentioned pushing Up Daisies. I wanted to talk about that because you guys just dropped that. What was that, like little just over a month ago?
Yeah.
So it's seeing really solid, streaming numbers coming through. What's it like? You touched on it, but what's it like holding back? You've got these songs that are 2, 3, 4 years old now, and you're going, man, I just want to be able to put the new stuff out. Because it almost, as proud of this as you are, I'm sure, it almost feels like you've outgrown this song at this point too, right?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it, right? So we've actually already gone in with Stevie earlier this year and did 3 more songs. And now, like, obviously we're kind of with those songs, and that's where the sound's going. So these songs, Pushing Up Daisies, and then there are 2 more off EP number 2 that we're releasing this year. We're not entirely outgrown by them, but we've moved on a little bit from them. It is hard to hold off on them, but as like an indie band, there's so much that goes into the release, and what we want to do and what we can do is kind of like we're always on that walking that fine line. we wanted to do a music video for Pushing Up Daisies, but the timing just didn't work out because we were like, we would have had to do it this coming weekend or next weekend. As the only time we could get, and then we're going on tour. So we would have had to shoot it all, get our mate to do all the edits and everything, and then release it. And it's like, well, maybe we're gonna have to hold off and we're gonna do a big music video for the next one.
Right.
But man, it just eats up so much of your time. I've listened to the songs because we write songs that we obviously enjoy listening to
Right.
as well. So I know there's a lot of bands out there that don't like their own songs, but I think we're trying to plug the gap with what we think is missing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had these songs like a ton. It's interesting to see people's reaction to them and to see the feedback, and so far so good. And yeah, it's just, we're really keen now to release the stuff we've got right now, because we're like, hey, we've got like a wild guitar solo in one of them. Hey, we've got that same song is pretty much like almost a pop song. Like it's a strange thing that we've done with these new ones as well. So yeah.
I think that shows too, kind of, Jake and I kind of talked about that with them writing Nevermind, pushing the boundaries of what pop punk is, because the pop punk community, as far as listeners and whatnot, listen to such a wide soundscape anyway. So it's like, I don't have to pigeonhole myself into, as much as I love the Wonder Years, I don't have to write the Wonder Years record, right? Like, there's so much opportunity here. I don't have to be Newfound Glory. I don't have to be Yellow Card. Like, I can do things that kind of sound like that, or maybe that are influenced by that, but we can go out and do this random fucking guitar solo and in double time hammers and taps, and like, okay, I don't know what the fuck that was, but let's go with it,
Yeah, it's just, if the song suits it, like, we just get ideas, or and we've all got kind of skills that we each bring to the table, right? So it's like, sometimes you can, like, lean on those, and the song will be something that kind of showcases that a little bit more. Or maybe someone in the band, like, I've been annoying the guys for ages, and like, let's do like a not a pop song, but it's kind of like an Emarosa song, new Emarosa.
Yeah.
That Cautious album, like the one, the Peach Club.
Yep.
Damn. So we've always loved like the 80s kind of synth style and stuff like that. So I think that's what sparked our interest for like some of the new ones. I was like, we need to do a song like this. Like, what would we do it like? What's our take on it?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of what we don't want to be a band that just does straight up pop punk. We've spoken about doing, when we get to a point where we're doing albums, actually branching off and dropping EPs almost in different genres.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just going, hey, here's this thing that we did. It's a fully synth based or something like that. It's just synth and, I don't know, for example, me singing and like a little bit of guitar, right? But then we just leave that and then go back to doing what we're doing album wise. And
right. Yeah,
it's just because like the drummer in our band is also just hitting me up. He's like, we should just do a country album as well. Like, just as something different. We're just like excited to get around anything. So, and there's no bad genres. There's only bad songs, right? So
right.
Every genre's got good songs in it, and it's about figuring out what makes those songs good. And seeing if you'd be able to do something like that, or what your take would be.
Yeah. And I think too, what comes to mind to me for doing some of those, quote unquote odd genre EPs that maybe aren't your mainstream album path, it also opens the door for potential tours, right? Because now you've got all this other stuff, and people are like, I wouldn't have thought about them being on tour with Emarosa or whoever, but that EP fucking killed it. Like, they can obviously appeal, so let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just about pushing your own limits. Like you don't want to be safe, or else if you're trying to be safe with music, it's gonna get generic, right? So you have to be just constantly pushing the boundaries of what you can achieve. And that's something that we've done. Like I know myself personally, with Stay, for example, that note in the chorus, like when Stevie was like, he's like, are you gonna do that? Like, we're gonna do that? He's like, that's super high. It's like, I can do it. It's like, yeah, I could do it in studio, at the time, but
Right.
getting to that level where I can do it live has been a process. It's like, I had to go away and go, yeah, I've got to start nailing, like, it's like an E flat 5 or something in full voice. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's not up in falsetto. And I'm only now really mastering it, where we played it live a couple of times and it's like, I'm getting there and I was just kind of missing the note a bit, but then like getting it. And it's like, all right, now we just played on the weekend. It was the first time I'm like just naturally getting to it. Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's pushed my skill level, and it's forced me to do better and to be better. Even with pushing Up Daisies, that was just like, that's such a full on song to sing. It just doesn't stop. So I had to learn I had to really control my breath to make sure that I'm not over expending, or else, man, I get to the last chorus and I'm just like, I got nothing left. I need to breathe.
Right.
You know? So
Yeah. Yeah. Wind yourself out on it. And it's like, oh shit. Like there's still 4 lines to go. What do I do? Like,
yeah. And I'm one of those people, I'm like a bit of a purist with it. I know that like crowd interaction is cool and everything, but as a vocalist, if I go to a show, I want to see and hear the vocalist sing the song, especially if it's like the cool parts of the song. It's like, don't make the crowd sing it, you sing it. Like, it's, to me, it's a
yeah.
little bit of a cop out. So I hate doing that myself. If I have to like skip a line or something, I'm just like, I'm dead inside right now. It's like, I might not look it, but if I'm skipping a line, I'm just like not happy with myself at all.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, as much as I love Dayseeker, I've noticed on TikTok they've been doing a lot of their videos, and Rory's been doing that a lot, where, you know, especially in like Sleep Talking and Without You or Without Me, he's hitting his last note, and then he's just leaving it up to the crowd to finish the line. And it's like, I mean, I get it, it's a popular song, like whatever, but at the same time, like, bro, I came here to hear you sing it. Like, this is what
Exactly.
I want, you know?
Exactly. And look, Brendan Urie is a great example of someone who
Yes.
actually sings. Like, it's like he's the person that I look at that it's like, right, you can do it. And like, dude, backflips on stage and stuff as well. It's like he's got a very good mastery of like his instrument and breath control. Um, I don't think everyone, like, obviously there are people out there that it's much more about the performance and that's what they bring to
Right.
it, and they sing, right? So it's kind of like both, right? They're just kind of like, it's more performance based. Man, I just love singing as like an art. So it's like, you know, I've gone to vocal. I've only recently stopped going to a vocal teacher, but I've been going for like 7 or 8 years,
Yeah.
and being like, you know, trained in it just because I love it and I want to be able to do it like easy. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be, or else I'd probably get anxious. That's why I don't get
Right.
people like, they're like, do you get nervous? Like, no, I don't get nervous because I'm like, I'm really prepared, like super prepared, like dumb prepared, like, you know. Um, and I think that, well, hopefully, because we practice like crazy as well. Hopefully it shows in our live shows that we're just able to focus on performing, and we just know that the instrumentation is going to kind of just happen, because it's like, at this point, it's like we've played these songs like a million times. Let's, you know.
Right. It's almost
So,
muscle memory at that point. And it's
exactly.
funny. I've had people say the same thing to me about the podcast. They're like, "Do you ever get nervous about the people that you're talking to, or, you know, blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Not really." Especially, I've been doing music journalism for 20 fucking years now, so
Yeah,
no. But like, even before, you know, part of it was just, I've convinced myself, and it's 100% a fact, but I've just trained my mind to not think of, oh, I'm talking to Rhys. He's this pop punk guy, you know, like, no, I'm talking to Rhys. He's a dude. Like, that's
yeah,
it. everybody's a fucking human being. And number two is I'm a classic overthinker. So like you're talking about over preparing, I've thought of every possible fucking wrong way that this thing could happen. So I've prepared for like, ooh, I fucked up a question, or they didn't like, like I can
Yeah.
rebound and adjust.
Yeah. And look, it's something that, like, being an overthinker does suck on one hand at times, but yeah, like if you use it and utilize it, you end up being, as you said, more comfortable, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird superpower. Like if you learn how to
Yeah.
do it the right way, it helps you prepare. But if you lose control with it, it's a fucking monster.
You definitely need to. I got back into like reading because I realized like reading's like the perfect thing for like the overthinking, because you got to focus on the book, and it's like something that's just like relax, because we're
Yeah.
just like always going. It's like you're either working or you're doing band stuff. Like the reason why I woke up late this morning, because last night I'm shooting the video for the pop punk cover that we're dropping this week. We're just doing like the little reels. And yeah, it was literally just like work, go to the gym, eat food, shoot this video, edit the video, and then it's like 10:30 at night. I'm like, just need something to just chill, So
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
books, hungry caterpillar. That's the way to go. No.
For sure. So as you kind of mentioned, you're going on tour soon. So let's touch on that real quick, because I believe, if I'm mapping this out correctly as I look at the calendar right here, this will be going live on US May the 17th. So May the 18th for you guys. And that looks like it'll be right before you guys kick off over in at the basement on this little run that you're doing with Down and Out.
Yeah. So we're doing, this is the biggest tour we've done so far. So we're getting out to like if you're in Australia, we're kind of like New South Wales is kind of in the middle of the East Coast kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like Victoria, you got Brisbane. So we're playing Melbourne, we're playing Canberra. We've played Canberra before, but going back there again. Playing Brisbane. So we're actually getting to like most of the major cities. We just played over in South Australia at like Barossa Valley, about an hour outside of the capital city, which was cool. And yeah, we're taking our mates Down and Out along for the ride. So yeah, they're all right. They're all right. We're just, yeah, we're doing them a favor by letting them come along. So
yeah, gotta work with what you got, right?
yeah, exactly. So there's not many to pick from here. No. Yeah, we're stoked. Like tickets are selling well. So and we've just got a bunch of people that are actually keen to sit. It's wild for us, right? Because like we've had a couple of people hit us up and they're like, yeah, we've like booked hotels and like we're coming out and they're actually traveling to see us in like Brisbane. And we're like, cool. Like it's like, you guys just realize that we're just like a crappy little pop punk band, right? We're like, we didn't say that to them. We're like, this is wild. Like people actually care enough to come out and see us. So yeah, we're keen as for that. And then haven't said anything about it, but we'll have announced it already. But we're dropping like another full length pop punk cover. So that'll come out just after we get off tour. So just feeding the beast, feed the content with with as much as we can. Yeah, man. It's definitely something we're just building on. We're just hoping that we can snag a couple more supports, I guess, through the end of this year. And leading up into the release of our EP. We're doing a massive music video for the next song. So I'm like feverishly trying to get certain Aussie celebrities to get on board. So we'll see what comes of that, because I'm hoping that we can get a couple. I've got a couple of good ideas, but really gonna have to see how good my networking skills are.
Yeah, for sure. And I talked to Emma from the Atomic Bow Project the other day, and she was talking about like some of the grants that they've gotten and stuff like that to do their music videos, because not saying that you guys are using grants or anything either, but like the average listener doesn't understand, especially for a DIY artist, a music video is a shitload of money to put together.
Massive outlays. So like Yeah, with the Yeah Nah music video we did, that like set us back like $6,000. Like, and that was with people, obviously we work with people that are trying to help us out. So I mean,
Right.
if they had full priced it, it would have been like 10 grand easy. And then like if you put that kind of money into it, you kind of want to put a bit of budget to marketing. So it's like,
Right.
um, yeah, it's a full on thing. You have to really think about, well, what are we going to get out of this by doing it? Um, I have to look into the grants and stuff like that, because if someone's going to give you free money, you should really say yes.
I would say hit up Emma. If you're not connected with her, Emmy knows her really well. So work with
Yeah,
them, because Emma, I think she said that they just got approved for the next music video. They got a grant approved for it as well. So
awesome.
definitely some potential, even if it's small, if it helps for the cost of, you know, the
Anything.
rental of cameras for the shoot, like, okay, cool. It's something.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely something we need to look into.
Yeah, for sure. So the thing I've been doing recently to kind of transition us to the wrap ups is I bought this game called Hot Takes.
Yep.
And that's just like controversial, quote unquote, kind of like Cards Against Humanity, just shitty opinions and stuff like that. So I've got two of them that I'm going to ask you, and I like the first one because Australia is known for their fucking insane wild animals. So this
Yep.
one is a grizzly bear would win in a fight against a gorilla.
Have you seen gorillas?
That
Those
was
things
my
don't,
thought.
those things don't give a shit, man. They're just like, they're freaks. There's no
Yeah,
way. Gorilla wins 100% of the time, all the time.
that's what I'm saying. Like, gorillas can pick up a fucking car. All right. Like,
Exactly.
no, there's no way a bear, if it gets within reach of the fucking gorilla,
But you want to
it's
see
done.
it, right? So like, okay, I don't like, all right. So can we pick like two arsehole, like an arsehole gorilla and an arsehole grizzly bear? So because we don't want to do like any animal cruelty or
Right.
stuff like that, right? You want like two dicks, like it's like they kind of deserve it. Just drop them in like a battle arena, right? And
Right.
just force them to attack each other. Mostly because I just kind of want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's going to be mayhem. There's no way that it's not just insane.
And we
Uh,
all know that it's the hippopotamus that wins in the end.
and I
Those
don't
things
know
are,
why more people are not scared of hippopotamus. Like,
I don't
oh,
know how they
they're so cute. Like, that dude will bite through the fucking hull of a ship. They don't give a
yeah,
fuck.
those things are freaks. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
and
Yeah,
and they can hold their fucking breath. Like, they take in a breath and then they walk across the bottom of lakes. They don't goddamn swim. They walk across the bottom of a lake.
that's such a weird thing.
Mind blowing. The second one I've got for you is that Santa's North Pole is just a glorified sweatshop.
Well, yeah, like I mean, every single time it's like, that when the cameras are off, it's like straight back to like, yeah, like Soviet Russia style,
Right.
like whipping kind of thing of the elves. I mean, that dude's, yeah, that is some straight up child labor right there.
Yeah.
That's
Especially as technology's advanced, right? Like, and the population's grown so massively. There's no way that it's not just the most grueling possible bullshit ever.
yeah, and like you imagine the profit margins that Santa's making off that. He works like one day a fucking year. Like it's like
Right.
one night. Like what? So like, we'll give him a little bit more than that, maybe like 48 hours because of like time.
Yeah, he has to make that list and check it twice, but fuck that.
Yeah, it's like that's just yeah. No, it is definitely child labor.
And he's got the easiest position, right? Like, as Santa, I have to make a list, check it twice, and then ride in a sleigh to drop off toys.
Exactly.
Cool.
And I think I'd like it more if it turned out that Santa was Tim Allen, though. Like that would
Yes.
be funny. That would
Yes.
actually be funny. Imagine like you just like it's just Christmas Christmas Eve and you just hear like just outside It's like, is that Santa Claus? No, it's just Tim Allen. It's just Tim Allen. He does this every year.
We've not been able to like break it to him. He's got dementia. Like,
Yeah, we've locked everything down. He's just like crawls in through the roof and he just sits in there and just goes all night. That's my worst nightmare, but also my biggest dream.
Yeah, it is nightmare fuel on one hand, because like you wouldn't hear him until you heard the grunt and you'd be like, what the fuck was that?
What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So that's pretty much everything I've got for you. Obviously, I'll link all the socials and everything, but what's the best place to find you guys, best way to interact, things like that?
I think we're probably most active on Instagram, which is just instagram.com/SoSo Punks. So it's PUNX. And that was because someone had the SoSo handle. So it's SoSo Punks. But we also got our website, which has like all the links to everything. So that's www.sosopunks.com. Again, PUNX. So yeah. And I think if you just Google it, I think we've actually got pretty good like coverage. So I'm sure if you just Google SoSo pop punk or something, if you're stuck, you'll find us. We're on TikTok as well. We do our dumber videos on TikTok. So it's always a good spot to go to as well.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you, again, time traveling. So getting up early to do this and have this conversation, it's been a lot of fun. And I really think, not blowing smoke up your ass, like I said before, I think you're at the point where you're starting to crack that egg and it's just, you're right there and it's about to break open.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having us on. Like, it's just awesome that, people even give a shit to take the time to talk to us. So we really do appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll keep you posted on all this. And like I said, I'm looking forward to it. So, we'll stay connected for sure.
Awesome. Sounds good, mate. Chat soon.
Awesome. Talk to you later, man.
Bye.